Most of this is about my ex-husband and my ex-sister-in-law. Let's call them Nathan and Gemma. So the two of them became part of my life about 6 years ago after I started dating Nathan. He and I had been set up together on a blind date by a couple of our friends, and it actually turned out to be pretty fun. After dating for 2 years, he proposed and I agreed to get married. Even before the engagement, there were a bunch of red flags, but I ignored them like an idiot because I was so keen to be with him. But after the engagement, things started to get a bit weird with me and Gemma because even though I was supposed to be his fiance, it felt like she was the one competing with me or something. Gemma is 6 years older than Nathan, and I knew for a fact that she had always been very protective and possessive of her brother. Their mother had passed away when they were both very young, and I knew that Nathan really loved and respected his sister, and for him, her word mattered more than anything else. In the beginning, I tried really hard to get on Gemma's good side, but after a while, it was clear that she just didn't like me. And there was no reason for it. I figured that she was just one of those people who couldn't tolerate the fact that she had to share her family with other people, especially their partners. Nathan had told me that even with her dad, she had a hard time accepting that he had remarried and had a wife and two other children. Nathan got along well enough with his dad's new wife and step-siblings. He always had. But Gemma always kept a distance from all of them except her father. He thought that this was cute, that she was so possessive, but I didn't find it cute at all because after the engagement, it started to feel like she was suffocating us with her presence constantly. He didn't seem to mind it, but I brought it up a couple of times and he said he would speak to her about it, but I don't think he ever did. Regardless, I did not let these petty little things get in the way of our relationship. We ended up getting married, and after our marriage, if I thought that Gemma did not like me before, I was not even prepared for what was about to come because she became even more hostile and cold towards me. She would drop by pretty often to check in on me and Nathan almost every week. And as long as Nathan was in the room, she was fine. But as soon as he left for any reason at all, it was like a switch would turn and she would suddenly start ignoring me and pretending like I wasn't even there. To be fair, even when he was in the room, she wasn't much better, but at least she had the good sense to pretend that she cared about my existence. Anyway, it was all very weird, and I guess I should have known that she was up to no good and that she was just a grade A weirdo. But I put up with all of it because I really loved Nathan, and I didn't want to let go of him. However, I never told him about any of these things because I didn't want it to feel like I was trying to turn him against his sister because I knew how much their relationship meant to him. So it was a tricky balance that I had to strike, but I did it anyway. Then, 6 months into our marriage, we decided it was time to start trying for a baby because we had agreed upon it earlier as well. And that's when the real problem started because even after trying for almost a year, we were still pretty unlucky. That's when we started considering getting tests conducted. And so we did. Unfortunately, I was the one who turned out to be infertile from the test results, and it really broke my heart. I couldn't even face it myself, much less tell him about it when I found out. But I knew I would have to let him, so the day that I found out, I made up my mind that I would tell him the next day. However, I never got that opportunity because when he came back home from work, he was furious with me for keeping secrets from him regarding my infertility, and I was very confused as to what was even going on, because this was not what I had expected. I thought that I would tell him on my own terms, in a calm and level-headed way. He usually worked later than I did, and I always got back home before he did, which is why I didn't want to drop the bomb on him right then, as he had to come back home, and the next day was a Saturday, so I thought I would tell him when we were both at home comfortably instead of giving him this terrible bit of news at work. I tried to explain that to him, but he told me that I should have called him and told him the truth right away, instead of trying to wait and cover it up. It felt like he was trying to accuse me, and after a while, even when I got pretty annoyed and I started defending myself, and he told me that he never should have gone against Gemma and married me because she had the right opinion about me all along, since now, after planning to lie to him, I actually had the audacity to try and defend myself. And that's when things finally started to add up. That maybe none of this was about me in the first place. While fighting with him, I was able to put two and two together, that apparently Gemma had called him up a couple of hours after I had received that email containing the test results. And he had been waiting for me to call him and tell him, but I didn't. And that was when his suspicions were confirmed. Gemma had already drilled it into his head that I was not to be trusted, and even in the past she had tried to turn him against me by feeding him lies about me, that I didn't come from a good family, and that I was going to try and deceive him, and that I was only with him for the money, and I was apparently using him as a safety net. All that stuff was already there, and now, in addition to this, Gemma had told him on the phone call that she was pretty sure that I was not even going to bother telling him about the test results because that's how dishonest I was. And she could just see it on my face. She always had been able to, and that's why she thought that it was unnecessary for her to warn him about it so that she could protect him. And unfortunately, I had just played right into her hands by choosing to keep quiet for one day and tell him the next day that was my big mistake. Even when he had come back home, he had asked me if there was something I wanted to tell him, and I had hesitated. And that was all that he needed to start off on me. I tried to convince him really hard that I had been planning on telling him the next day, that I just didn't want to disturb him at work by talking about something like this. But he wouldn't believe me. He packed up his bags that night and he left. No matter how hard I tried to call him, he just wouldn't pick up. For the next few days, I kept trying to get through to him, but I was blocked everywhere. I tried to speak to his friends as well, but even they didn't let me through, and eventually I was served with divorce papers. I was so disheartened that I didn't even bother to fight it, and within a couple of months, as soon as the waiting period was done with, we got the divorce finalized. I just agreed to all his terms, which were not that unfair, thankfully, and we were able to manage to end it as soon as possible. It was a very hard time for me because I really loved him, and I couldn't believe that he had chosen to end our marriage over something like this. But life goes on, and so does mine. Now, it's been almost a year since the divorce, and I'm doing better now. I don't have any contact with him, and all our common friends have also picked sides, and some of them have chosen to side with him. Most of them are still a part of my life, and I'm thankful for that. My parents have also been very supportive, especially because they also got dragged into this unnecessarily, since Gemma had used them as an argument against me, claiming that I was not from a good family just because my parents were not as well off as hers. But whatever. I had left all that behind, at least that's what I thought. However, this week I got a surprise in the form of my ex-husband calling me up in the middle of the night a couple of weeks back and begging for me to come back to him. He was totally drunk, and I could tell that he was not in his senses, but I was really curious as to what he had to say. He had even called me from a new number so that I wouldn't be able to recognize who it was before I picked it up. And when I did pick up, I had half a mind to hang up, but curiosity got the better of me and I ended up hearing him out. Long story short, Gemma and her husband are going through a divorce right now because apparently she had been cheating on him for the past 2 years with one of her co-workers. Actually, co-worker isn't the right word. I would say employee, because that's what he really was. He worked under her in her department and now she's been placed on a sabbatical until all of this is sorted out. She is pretty indispensable to the company, so she's probably not going to get fired. But they are definitely trying to hush it all up. It's a huge mess. And her husband has also found out that she's a pathological, compulsive liar. She has lied about many, many things, be it big or small. Some of these lies she had told in order to cover up her affair, but others were completely unnecessary. Like, for instance, she had lied to her husband, saying that it was completely necessary to make sure that I don't end up becoming a permanent part of Nathan's life, because apparently I had personally told her that I was only after his money while I was drunk. And that's why she was trying to protect him by weeding me out. At first, her husband had believed it, but now he doesn't think it's true anymore, given everything that has come to light about her. And so he thought that it would be best for him to tell Nathan and everything about how she had literally hatched a plan and had been keeping tabs on me, looking for any excuse to get me out of his life. I had already known in the past that she must have somehow had access to my email account, and maybe even my other social media accounts, because otherwise, how would she have found out about the email? She probably didn't even need anybody to hack into it or anything. She's a tech whiz, so it must have been easy for her, or maybe she had help, but whatever it was, I knew for a fact that she probably had been keeping tabs on me in order to find some reason to create trouble between me and Nathan. And when she finally did, she did not let that opportunity go to waste, and she probably milked it for what it was worth. I know that while we were in the process of getting divorced, Nathan had been staying with Gemma and her husband. So I'm guessing that she used that time with him to brainwash him even more against me. The thing is, I knew all of this, but I'm guessing that he probably didn't figure any of this out until recently, until Gemma's husband told her that she was a liar and a cheat. And now that everything he knew and trusted about his sister has been confirmed to be rubbish, he finally wants me back. On the phone call, I didn't say anything. I just heard him out, and then I hung up. I blocked him for a good measure, so he wouldn't be able to disturb me for the rest of the night. And the next morning, when I woke up, I sent him a text saying that I hated him and I never wanted to speak to him or hear from him ever again, and that he had probably done me a huge favor by leaving me, because I might not have had the good sense to leave him by myself. And I thanked him and his sister for ruining our relationship and marriage, because they just saved me a huge amount of trouble. I called him a coward, and I told him that I was never going to forgive him, so he might as well not try again. And that was that, and I blocked him again. A couple of hours later, I received a message from another number, and it was still him. He said that he was really sorry about everything and that I did not need to get back with him. He knew that he didn't deserve it, but the least that he could ask for was my forgiveness, because he knows that he has really messed up. Instead of replying to that text, I ignored it. And then later that night, I texted back saying I was never going to forgive him, and I had already made that clear. I told him that he and his sister are just alike and they deserve each other. And that was that. I blocked the other number as well. Now, the thing is that I didn't do these things with any malicious intent. I was just trying to get back at him because he had really ticked me off and he had really hurt me in the past. So I thought that he deserved this, which is why I replied and said all these awful things. What I didn't realize was the kind of effect that it would have on him. But I guess he didn't take it too well, and now he's in the hospital. Apparently, he got totally drunk again, and he tried to drive to my house, and on the way, he got into an accident. It was pretty bad, and all his friends know for a fact that he was heading to my house because he had been asking around about my new address so he could apologize to me in person and hopefully get me to melt. I don't know. I just feel very sorry for him, and I feel guilty about everything that happened. I feel like I shouldn't even have picked up that phone call or responded to these texts, and all of this might have been avoided, but now it's done. I feel like a total jerk for the things I said. None of my friends have blamed me yet, but I feel like they might. I'm going crazy myself, thinking that I'm the one to hold responsible for all of this. So what do you guys say? AITA for being rude to my ex-husband when he tried to apologize to me? Edit. Guys, I don't really know everything that Gemma has lied about. I only know whatever Nathan mentioned on the phone call, and he didn't speak about the rest of it. So I've only mentioned the information that I thought was relevant and whatever he actually spoke about at length. Other than that, I don't really know what all she has lied about. And I don't really care to know because this is not about her at all. This is about me. Maybe about Nathan. Whatever she has done or she has said that doesn't have anything to do with me. Doesn't factor in at all. So no, I don't know, and I'm not going to bother to find out either. As for the whole infertility thing, I guess there might have been some confusion, but I'll set it straight. Yes, I definitely am infertile. She didn't control the results or anything. And yes, I definitely was going to tell my husband the very next day. I just needed some time to process it myself because it's a huge thing. I don't think I was lying to him about anything, and I was actually even about to tell him right then and there when he asked me if I had something to say. But before I could even open my mouth, he took advantage of the fact that I had hesitated for even a second. And that's when he started yelling at me. He didn't even give me a chance. He already had. His mind was made up because his sister had drilled into his head that I was the bad guy here, and he was not going to make it work with me no matter what I tried to say. Because by then, Gemma had gotten to him, and there was no turning back. So no matter what I had tried to do at this point, it wouldn't have worked, and I know that now. Update 1. Thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who commented on my post and let me know that I am not the one responsible for anything that has happened to my ex-husband. Because I was really worried about Nathan. It was weighing on my conscience, but I think that's just a normal reaction to hearing what he's going through. He's stable now, but he's severely injured, so they are still keeping him at the hospital. Thankfully, insurance is going to cover everything, but still it's a huge shock. I spoke to my friends about it and told them how I had been feeling about everything, and they said that it's understandable that I feel sorry for him, and also that I feel responsible for this to a certain degree, but at the end of the day, I just have to remember that I did not ask him to come and visit me in order to apologize in person, especially when he was drunk. Nobody knew what he was thinking, and I guess his drinking problems are also coming too late. It was never a thing when we were together, so this is new. I'm guessing that this is something that developed after we got divorced, so I think maybe that was not as easy for him as I thought it was. Regardless, none of that is my fault, and I'm not going to hold myself responsible for it anymore either. I had thought about going to visit him in the hospital, but right now, I don't think that it's going to do anything, so I'm just staying away, and to be honest, I don't know what that was going to establish. I guess I was just feeling bad about everything, and I wanted something to distract myself, which is why I thought that going to visit him would probably help alleviate some of the guilt. However, now I know that I don't need to feel guilty at all. So I don't think that I'm going to go. I think it's best for us to stay apart now, given everything that has happened. My parents and my friends also think the same thing. So that is what I'm going to be doing. All that said, I really do hope he gets better and makes a full recovery as soon as possible, because whether I hate him or I love him or whatever, all that aside, I wouldn't want him to be suffering like this. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Again, thank you to everybody who commented on my post. It really means a lot that you guys took the time to speak to me. Update 2. So I guess I have been waiting for this to happen at some point, and it finally did. I'm back here because Gemma got in touch with me, and like I said, I had been anticipating something like this right from the beginning. I knew that she was going to find a way to blame all of this on me somehow. So mentally, I was kind of prepared for it. She decided to call me, and thankfully when she called me at first, I was at work. But then she called me a couple more times, seeing that I didn't pick up initially. And that's how I figured out that it probably would be her, even though she was using a different number that I didn't have saved. Regardless, I still picked up the phone because I really wanted to know what she had to say to me, and I made sure that I was recording the phone call as well, just in case, and I'm glad that I did. As soon as I picked up, she unleashed a stream of profanity which was quite vulgar, and even though she was not even on speaker or anything, I could hear her, even though I had held the phone a couple of inches from my ear because she was screeching so loudly. It was clear from her tone that she blamed all of this on me, that she thought that it was my fault for not forgiving her brother, who decided to take that drastic step of getting drunk and driving to my house so he could apologize to me in person. Let's forget about the fact that I had told him that I didn't want to speak to him at all, that I didn't want to hear from him, and yeah, it was my fault somehow that he made a bad call. Anyway, what was new was that she told me he had been talking about me ever since he had come around, and I didn't even have the good grace of visiting him just once, since I was the one responsible for all of this. And now the only reason she was calling me was because she wanted me to come and see him in the hospital, and she wanted to talk to him and forgive him so that he would at least feel a little less guilty. And it was shocking that she was calling me to make a request like that. And yet she was trying to push me around like she was my boss or something. I told her very clearly that I was not going to come and see him, that I was not responsible for any of this, and if anything, she is the one responsible for ruining our marriage, so she is not in a position to be making any demands. She started getting even more agitated, and she started to yell at me even louder, saying that I had no right to speak to her that way, and that she had only been looking out for her brother, so she hadn't even done anything wrong, and she was going to make sure I paid for what I had done. She started threatening me. She said that I had dared to hurt her brother, not just mentally and emotionally, but also physically. Now, because she was obviously blaming the accident on me, she called me a bunch of horrible names. She called me every derogatory word in her book, and then she told me that she was going to make sure that I regretted this decision for the rest of my life. Very calmly, I asked her what exactly was it that she was going to do, and she told me that I would see, and that was all that I needed, the threat. I immediately called my lawyer up and told him all about this. I said that I needed to file a restraining order against this woman because I don't trust her. And after everything that has happened in the past, I don't think I have a reason to trust her either. She's clearly unhinged, and there's something definitely wrong with her. And to be honest, I'm kind of glad that she gave me an excuse to file for a restraining order against her, because otherwise I wouldn't have felt safe anyway. So that's what my lawyer and I are going to go ahead with now, and I've already spoken to my parents and my friends about it. And they have told me that it's a good idea just to have it in place for the next couple of days. I have decided to move in with my parents because I don't know if she knows where I live or not. And honestly, I don't want to risk it either, even if she's not very capable of doing any real harm to me. I just don't think that's worth it. And my parents also think that it would be wise to stay with them for a couple of days. So I guess the next couple of days and probably a few weeks more, it's going to be pretty intense. So let's see how it works out. Update 3. Hey everybody, it's been 3 months since my last update and I'm back in my home. I have a restraining order against Gemma, so that's a good thing. Nathan has left me alone, but I've heard from a couple of friends that he's in rehab right now to deal with his drinking problems. And I was right about him having developed that issue after we got divorced. I actually feel bad for him because I really loved him. And I know that if we had been together, our lives, especially his, would have been very different and much better. But then unfortunately he chose to obey Gemma, who was his worst enemy. Anyway, she got her karma for that. She's divorced now. And she also lost custody of her daughter. What with everything that happened with me, I wish I could say that I feel sorry for her, but I really don't. She deserved every bit of that. Anyway, it doesn't matter anymore because I'm just going to try my best to move on with my life now. And for the most part, it just means that I'm going to try and erase all of this from my memory altogether and pretend that it never happened. Because thinking about it is quite painful, and I know that it's probably not the healthiest way to deal with everything that's happened. But I really don't have a choice at the moment. I did get a couple more emails from Nathan after he was discharged from the hospital. They were just a few more apologies and confessions of love, and I deleted all of them so I wouldn't be tempted to read them over and over again. Truth is, I guess I wasn't as over him as I thought I was, and it's going to take a lot for me to heal from that. I'm going to start therapy in a couple of weeks, but before that, I'm just going to try dealing with this stuff on my own. It's going to be hard, but I know that I'll be able to make it through, just like I've been able to make it through all of this for the past year. So yeah, I'm hopeful for the future, and also thank you to everybody who supported me in the comments. And it also reached out to me through their messages. Thank you for everything. It means a lot. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.